Clinton and Donald Trump appeared on the same stage last night at a foreign policy forum in New York City, albeit not at the same time. And Clinton did address her email practices, though, during her time allotted while Secretary of State. At one point, a veteran in the audience who held a top-secret naval flight clearance told the Democratic nominee that he believes he would have been prosecuted and imprisoned if he'd handled classified information as she did. And then he asked her this.
Secretary Clinton, how can you expect those, such as myself, who were and are entrusted with America's most sensitive information, to have any confidence in your leadership as president when you clearly corrupted our national security?
Well, I appreciate your concern and also your experience, but let me try to make the distinctions that I think are important for me to answer your question. First, as I said to Matt, you know and I know, classified material is designated, it is marked, there is a header so that there is no dispute at all that what is being communicated to or from someone who has that access is marked classified. And what we have here is the use of an unclassified system by hundreds of people in our government to send information that was not marked. There were no headers. There was no statement, top secret, secret, or confidential. I communicated about classified material on a wholly separate system. I took it very seriously.
John Heilemann is managing editor of Bloomberg Politics, co-host of The Circus. It returns to Showtime. Oh, by the way, division of CBS this Sunday.
I'm happy about that.
Not a day too soon, John. It's not as though you have not had a lot of material with which to work.
Yes, if we had wanted to commit suicide, and we could have done this show every single week from the beginning of the year till the end of the year, it would have been a suicidal. It would have been a suicidal act, but we have not lacked for material.
You could have pickled it. Yeah. This answer last night. Yep. It is not the first time she's given it. It will not be the last time she's asked to give it. She's had months, though, to satisfy, if nothing else, a deeply dissatisfied electorate. What'd you think?
Well, boy, there's a micro question, a macro question. I think that that she's. The answer was defensive and legalistic and went on too long. It's funny. It's like if you talk to the people around her at their headquarters in Brooklyn, they all say, people are people are ready to move on. They're anybody who's against her on this issue is going to be against her, and we can't change their minds. And anybody who doesn't care. We should just move on. And yet she can't seem to move on. Yeah. The way that and I think part of it in that instance, at least, was being confronted by a questioner in the audience and someone who had standing and credibility. I think if Matt Lauer had asked that question, she might have been more easily basically say, Matt, I've apologized for this profusely and repeatedly, and I'm not going to really say more about it. I have a voluminous record on this question. But I think coming from the audience, she felt sort of compelled to go a little deeper. And I don't think it's at this point getting her anywhere, but she is going to continue to be asked about it. And so, I am among those people who thinks there are serious issues at stake in play here. And yet, at the same time, I'm also one of these people who would like to have heard more discussion of all of the stuff that's going on around the world in the areas of national security and foreign affairs while she was on that stage last night.
Given that was the point of
I mean, this is a relevant question within that purview.
It is, but this is also.
But there's just a lot of things going on in the world.
Isn't this a campaign for our time? It's 2016. This is a social media-driven, celebrity-obsessed electorate that perhaps have in these two candidates who won't let sometimes things go that do get in the way of policy discussion.
Yes, and it's also the case that they both are. It's in a funny way. Lauer asked them last night, said, let's refrain from attacking each other too much tonight. They didn't totally heed that admonition. They did attack each other, but less than they have in normal circumstances. And in a weird way, when those two are not attacking each other, they're, I think, also a little bit at a loss for what to say, because the truth is the campaign has become, to a degree I've never experienced in all the campaigns I've covered now in 25 years, the intensity, ferocity, and relentlessness of charge and countercharge of both sides essentially having decided that they are going to make this campaign about disqualifying the other person.
The ad hominem attacks.
And about disqualification. How do I how do I prove to the American people that this person is intolerable, as opposed to making any kind of a positive case for themselves. They occasionally try a little bit, but mostly they spend all of their time trying to tear each other down. And I know people will say that's the way it always was. There's always been a lot of negativity in politics. That's true. But this election is sui generis in terms of just, as I say, the consistency of it, the level of it, and it's part of why both of them are so unpopular. And I'll say this, I've gone on too long. Last night, the main takeaway was both of them gave each other more ammunition to attack each other again in the future. You know, you will hear the Clinton campaign, they will point to Donald Trump lying about his being against the Iraq War from the very beginning, which is a lie. His favorable comments about Putin, his seeming kind of surprise to learn that there were a lot of undocumented workers, undocumented Americans who are serving in the armed forces, the generals being reduced to rubble, all those things. Those will all be attack points now from the Clinton campaign. And everything she said about her email server and about those, all of that related set of issues will all be attack points now from the Trump campaign. And that's what the big fallout from last night will be, more attacks. Great.
And it seemed as well there was some confirmation bias, if only to say that while she seemed uncomfortable in the setting, she certainly seemed more comfortable when she did delve into policy, whereas there was no policy for Donald Trump necessarily to put forward. However, he at least seemed more at ease. I do want to play...
100% right. Style, he won all the style points last night. To the extent there was substance, she won all the substance points.
I want to play... He was asked about his national security briefings that he's received.
Yeah.
Let's take a listen and get your thoughts on the other side.
Did anything in that briefing, without going into specifics, shock or alarm you?
Yes. There was one thing that shocked me, and it just seems to me that what they said, President Obama and Hillary Clinton and John Kerry, who is another total disaster, did exactly the opposite.
Did you learn anything in that briefing, again, not going into specifics, that makes you reconsider some of the things you say you can accomplish, like defeating ISIS quickly?
No, I didn't learn anything from that standpoint. What I did learn is that our leadership, Barack Obama, did not follow what our experts, and our truly, when they call it intelligence, it's there for a reason, what our experts said to do. And I was very, very surprised in almost every instance. And I could tell, I have pretty good with the body language, I could tell they were not happy. Our leaders did not follow what they were recommending.
The New York Times would later classify that as a classic Trump moment, a dark insinuation without evidence.
Right.
How would you characterize that?
I have never been in a security briefing of that kind, and so I can only speak on the basis of reporting, talking to people who have. No one who knows anything about the briefing process would give anything he just said any credence whatsoever. The briefing process is designed in these instances to give presidential nominees a basic overview of facts, and to scrupulously and at a very high degree of professionalism avoid anything that would give fodder for the kind of argument that Trump is making. I can't call him a liar. I wasn't there. I don't know what actually happened. But on the basis of what people who have experienced those things and deal with people who give those briefings all the time, they say they would be shocked if a briefer would give any kind of a policy, would express anything that would hint at a policy difference with the President of the United States, or make any kind of a suggestion through body language or anything else that would allow a nominee, a candidate, to come forward and politicize the briefing in the way that Donald Trump did right there.
He has put forward strength on various fronts as the cornerstone, really, of his campaign, whether it is a hardline stance on immigration or with regard to last night, the promise throughout this election cycle of a foolproof plan to defeat ISIS quickly and totally.
Right.
It's since a couple of times yesterday been revealed that right now the plan seems to be reach out to generals who he has said have been reduced to rubble and come up with something in the first 30 days of a Trump presidency. I mean, those two ideas cannot exist in the same world.
Look, here's one of there's the BS meter, and historically speaking, and this is a bipartisan point, the BS meter should be at Amber Alert level whenever a candidate starts talking about their secret plan to do anything. Yeah. You know, your secret plan to end the war, your secret plan to bring jobs back, your secret plan to tame inflation, whatever it is. The secret plan is usually a non-existent plan. Trump last night insisted that he does have a plan, but that the reason he's now asking the generals to come forward with the plan is that he wants to hear from the generals, and he will either decide to go with his secret plan, or he'll go with their plan, or maybe he'll merge them together. I mean, if it weren't for the secret plan, the notion of saying what I'm going to do when I first arrive, I'm not a guy with a great deal of military experience, but I want to get in there and I want to hear what the generals have to say, and I order them to come up with a plan. That would be a perfectly reasonable thing to say. I'm going to defer to my generals. But against the backdrop of the secret plan, which he still says may override what the generals say, it just is, a little dubious.
And will be certainly dug into in fewer than 3 weeks from now at the first presidential debate. Again, the circus returns this Sunday. It's on Showtime. Don't miss it. It's required viewing in this election.
We're going to get you on the circus, Josh.
Yeah.
We're going to get you on the circus.
We can talk after this.
You can use sword swallowing? Finger puppets?
Is that a euphemism? I hope so. One hopes.
Fire eating? I didn't really mean to, You got to have a circus skill if you're going to be a circus.
I can hang with the elephants.
Awesome. Good. Great.
And
right behind him
and the donkeys.
with a giant shovel.
Yeah. John Heilemann, as always.
Thank you, Josh.